The sky above the Zarathian capital glowed with shades of violet and gold, a constant reminder of the alien world's strange beauty. Crystal towers rose like jagged teeth, reflecting the light in dazzling patterns. Citizens walked through the streets with a mixture of awe and caution. Despite the planet's beauty, a shadow hung over the Zarathian Empire. The alien king, ruler of this proud and ancient civilization, had spent countless nights staring out at the horizon, his mind heavy with worry. His daughter, Princess Lyra, had vanished many years ago during a border conflict with a rival empire. No messages, no signs, no hope. The people whispered that she might never return. The king sat on his ornate throne, carved from the purest crystal of the capital mines. His large hands rested on the armrests, trembling slightly, though he was a figure of power and respect. His eyes, golden like molten metal, scanned the council chambers. Advisors and generals sat stiffly, their faces reflecting concern, uncertainty, and fear. The kingdom had survived wars before, but the absence of the princess left a hole that could not be filled. Suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky. The courtiers gasped, pointing to a silver shape descending from the heavens. The king's eyes widened. "What is that?" he demanded, his voice deep and commanding. Guards rushed to the observation decks and citizens spilled into the streets to see. The craft was unlike any Zarathian ship, sleek and metallic, moving with a speed and grace that suggested intelligence and purpose. It landed smoothly in the central plaza, sending a shockwave of excitement and fear through the city. When the doors of the ship opened, the figure that stepped out caused a collective gasp. Princess Lyra had returned. She was taller, stronger, and carried an aura of confidence that she had lacked as a child. Her long hair glimmered under the alien sun, and her eyes, a striking mix of violet and silver, scanned the crowd with a calm intensity. Beside her stood a human warrior, tall and lean, with eyes that shone with courage and determination. His armor was unlike anything the Zarathians had seen, smooth yet functional, with faint glowing lines running along its surface. The king could hardly believe his eyes. For years he had mourned her loss, imagining the worst. Now here she was, alive and well, returning from an unknown journey with a human at her side. His mind struggled to understand what had happened. How had she survived? Why was she accompanied by a human, a species they barely trusted? Lyra approached the throne, bowing respectfully but with a strength that impressed even the skeptical advisors. "Father," she said, her voice steady and clear, "I have returned." The king rose slowly, his massive frame casting a shadow across the chamber. "Lyra, my daughter," he said, voice thick with emotion. You are alive." He stepped forward, reaching for her, and she embraced him. The court fell silent, watching this rare moment of tenderness in the heart of their ruler. Yet while the reunion was heartfelt, suspicion lingered. The human warrior stood a few steps behind Lyra, his posture rigid and alert. He observed the Zarathian court carefully, aware of the weight of his presence. Whispers filled the air, some questioning his loyalty, others curious about the bond he shared with the princess. Lyra noticed the doubt in the council's eyes and explained. "Father, I was captured by mercenaries working for the rival empire," she said. "They held me far from here in a place no one could find. Captain Ethan," she gestured to the human, "found me and helped me escape. He risked his life to bring me home." The king studied the human warrior. Ethan bowed his head slightly in respect, acknowledging the king's authority. "Your Majesty, I only served to protect the princess. Her safety was my mission, nothing more," Ethan said, his voice calm and steady. Despite the explanation, not everyone was convinced. Some council members whispered privately, suggesting that humans could be unpredictable, even dangerous. They had heard stories of human courage and cunning, but also of recklessness. They feared that trusting an outsider could bring danger to the empire. Lyra, sensing the tension, stepped forward. "I understand your concerns," she said, "but Captain Ethan has proven his loyalty. He saved my life. His courage is real and his mind sharp. We cannot ignore the value of an ally when our world faces threats that may come again." The king nodded slowly. His mind raced with conflicting emotions: relief at his daughter's return, admiration for the human warrior's bravery, and fear of the unknown consequences. Still, he could not ignore the truth. The rival empire was still out there, and reports suggested that they were planning a large-scale invasion. As the princess and her companion settled in the palace, Ethan observed the Zarathian soldiers and their advanced technology. He noticed differences in combat style, communication, and discipline. Though humans were known for adaptability and clever tactics, he realized the Zarathians were formidable in their own right. Their agility, precision, and mental coordination were unlike anything he had experienced before. Lyra, meanwhile, recounted her years in captivity. She spoke of harsh conditions, isolation, and the mental challenges of staying alive. But she also told of the strategies she learned to survive, the alliances she had to forge even among enemies, and the courage it took to trust a human warrior like Ethan. Her words impressed the king not just because she had survived, but because she had grown stronger, wiser, and more independent. Ethan also shared his perspective. He described the moment he first saw Lyra held captive, how he navigated enemy lines and the risks he faced to rescue her. He spoke humbly, emphasizing that it was Lyra's own courage and intelligence that made the rescue possible. The king listened carefully, noting the teamwork and mutual respect between them. Despite the king's relief, he knew the return of his daughter would not solve all problems. The rival empire remained a threat. Reports suggested their fleets were mobilizing, and intelligence indicated that another attack was likely. The king realized that Lyra and Ethan might hold the key to a new strategy, one that combined human ingenuity with Zarathian strength. To test the human warrior and build trust, the king decided to allow Ethan to train with Zarathian soldiers. This was unprecedented. No human had ever been permitted to fight alongside the elite warriors of the empire. Many in the court expressed skepticism, but the king's decision was final. "We face challenges we cannot overcome alone," he said. "If this human can help protect our people, he shall have the chance." Lyra stood beside Ethan as he began training. She acted as a bridge between the two worlds, teaching him Zarathian customs, combat styles, and strategies, while learning about human adaptability and quick thinking. Slowly, mutual respect began to form. Soldiers who had doubted Ethan's presence were impressed by his determination, resilience, and clever tactics. As the sun set over the capital, casting long shadows across the crystal towers, the king walked through the palace gardens with Lyra. "You have changed," he said softly, almost to himself. "Stronger, wiser, braver, and yet you still carry the heart of my daughter." Lyra smiled. "I survived because I had to, father. But I returned because I wanted to, and because I knew you would never give up hope." The king looked up at the sky, knowing that the coming days would be challenging. The rival empire was gathering strength, and the threat of war loomed over the horizon. Yet for the first time in years he felt a spark of hope. With Lyra back and a human warrior by her side, the Zarathian empire might have a chance to face whatever came next. The night was calm, but the stars seemed to burn brighter as if acknowledging a new alliance, a new hope, and a new era for the empire. Tomorrow, the training would continue. Tomorrow, the threats would become real. But tonight, the king allowed himself to feel joy, to embrace his daughter, and to see the potential in a partnership that crossed species and worlds. Little did they all know, the challenges ahead would test not only strength and courage, but trust, loyalty, and the ability to unite in the face of overwhelming danger. The return of the princess and the human warrior was only the beginning of a story that could reshape the future of the galaxy. The first light of the twin suns touched the crystal towers of the Zarathian capital, casting long, shifting reflections across the streets. The city seemed alive with anticipation, but beneath the beauty, tension ran deep. The reports of the rival empire's forces had become more frequent and detailed. Scouts had spotted enemy ships near the outer colonies. It was clear now that the invasion was not a rumor. It was imminent. Inside the palace, Princess Lyra and Captain Ethan prepared for what lay ahead. Training had become a daily ritual. Ethan had learned to move with Zarathian warriors, understanding their fluid combat style and using his human adaptability to complement it. Lyra observed, coached, and sometimes joined the exercises, her presence inspiring both the humans and Zarathians alike. The alien king watched from a balcony as the soldiers moved in coordinated formations below. He had come to appreciate Ethan's skills. The human had proven himself not only in strength and courage, but also in strategic thinking. Unlike the Zarathians, who relied on instinct honed over centuries, Ethan analyzed every move, predicting possibilities that others might overlook. It was a combination of tradition and innovation, and the king could see its potential. The first test came sooner than expected. A surveillance drone reported enemy ships moving fast toward a border outpost. The Zarathian military mobilized immediately. Lyra insisted on joining, knowing that her experience in captivity and survival could help her people. Ethan naturally stood by her side. Together they led a squad of elite warriors, a mix of humans and Zarathians, to intercept the enemy. The journey to the outpost was tense. The twin suns cast long shadows over barren landscapes, and the silence of space was filled with the hum of their own ships. Soldiers exchanged nervous glances. Many had never fought alongside a human before, and the alliance was still new, fragile. Lyra sensed their uncertainty and spoke softly. "Trust each other. Look for strength in what is different. We are stronger together than alone." As they approached the outpost, alarms rang. The enemy had begun its attack. Ships fired plasma beams that lit up the void, and smaller strike vessels broke away to engage the defenders. Ethan coordinated with the Zarathian squad leaders, adjusting formations, predicting enemy maneuvers, and using human-inspired tactics to flank and confuse the attackers. The first clash was chaotic. Laser fire streaked through the darkness. Shields glowed under impact, and explosions rocked the ships. Lyra directed the defenders with precision, using her knowledge of both Zarathian strategy and her own experiences of being outnumbered in captivity. She moved with speed and grace, weaving through the battlefield, rallying soldiers and rescuing those caught in danger. Ethan demonstrated a mix of human ingenuity and bravery. When a key Zarathian ship was nearly destroyed, he maneuvered it behind a drifting asteroid, using the terrain to block the enemy's line of fire. The Zarathian soldiers, initially skeptical, began to see the value in human thinking. Slowly, the two forces learned to trust each other, adapting in real time, complementing each other's strengths. Then came the turning point. The enemy commander, a fierce and cunning strategist, appeared in a large warship, leading a strike force designed to break the defense. His attacks were relentless, and the outpost seemed on the brink of collapse. Ethan calculated the risks, and Lyra immediately recognized the plan. They coordinated a daring counterattack, a diversion by the Zarathians to draw fire, while Ethan and Lyra led a small team to strike at the commander's ship directly. The maneuver was tense, with every second counting. Ethan piloted the lead ship through a narrow asteroid field, dodging fire while guiding the team. Lyra, using her knowledge of enemy tactics, anticipated every move, issuing rapid commands. The enemy commander attempted to counter, but the combination of human unpredictability and Zarathian discipline proved too much. They disabled the ship's weapons and forced it into surrender. As the smoke cleared, the outpost remained intact. Soldiers cheered, some in disbelief that a human and an alien princess could lead them to victory. The king, observing from the palace, felt a surge of pride and relief. The alliance had worked. Humans and Zarathians together could face even the greatest threats. Returning to the capital, the mood was different. Where there had been tension and doubt, there was now respect and admiration. Ethan, once an outsider, had earned the trust of the soldiers and council alike. Lyra's father, the king, formally recognized his daughter's strength and courage, and by extension, the value of the human warrior she had chosen to bring into their world. A ceremony was held in the grand hall of the palace. Lyra and Ethan stood before the king, who addressed the court. "Today we have seen the power of unity. We have seen courage and wisdom in action. Captain Ethan has proven that humans are not only capable allies, but a source of strength that we can trust. Princess Lyra has returned, not just as my daughter, but as a leader who can inspire our people. Together, they have shown what can be achieved when we look beyond fear and embrace collaboration." The court erupted in applause. Soldiers, advisors, and citizens cheered for the human and the princess. It was a moment that would be remembered in Zarathian history. The alliance of two species, once untested and uncertain, had shown its worth. Even with the victory, the king knew challenges remained. The rival empire was still out there planning and watching. But for the first time in many years, hope burned brightly in the hearts of the people. Lyra and Ethan represented not just survival and bravery, but a vision of the future, a future where humans and Zarathians could stand together against any threat. In the quiet moments after the ceremony, Lyra and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. Crystals reflected the light of the twin moons, casting dancing patterns across their path. "We did well today," Lyra said, a faint smile on her lips. "But this is just the beginning. There will be more battles, more challenges. Are you ready?" Ethan nodded, his gaze steady. "I am. We are stronger together. That is what matters." Lyra looked up at the stars, thinking of all the galaxies, all the worlds, and the dangers that lurked beyond. "Then we will face them side by side," she said. As the night deepened, the palace and city lay quiet, but the stars seemed to shimmer with a sense of promise. The human warrior and the princess had proven that courage, loyalty, and collaboration could overcome fear, doubt, and even overwhelming odds. The Zerathian Empire was no longer alone. Humanity had entered their world, not as conquerors but as partners, allies, and friends. The next day, preparations began for a broader alliance. Humans would train with Zerathian soldiers, learn their tactics, and share their strategies. Plans were drawn for joint defense of the colonies and coordinated intelligence efforts. The king, once wary of the unknown, now saw opportunity in unity. He had learned that strength was not just in power or numbers, but in trust, collaboration, and the willingness to embrace new ideas. And so, with the princess at his side and a human warrior standing proudly among the Zerathians, the king felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever the galaxy might throw at them, they would face it together. The bond between species, born of courage, loyalty, and mutual respect, had transformed fear into hope, doubt into trust, and uncertainty into strength. The rival empire would come, and the battles would test every skill, every strategy, and every heart. But Lyra, Ethan, and the people of the Zerathian Empire were ready. They were united, and together, nothing could break their resolve. The stars above gleamed as if acknowledging a new dawn for the Empire, a dawn of cooperation, courage, and unbreakable alliance.